Well, hello YouTube. Hi, it's First Stage here, back for another video. This one we're doing a couple of things. First of all, it's not a live stream, but there is going to be a live stream, and I'm just doing a kind of a test of whether all the technology kind of works. It might do. I've particularly struggled with my sound. Anyway, I'm not going to labour you with my problems. I'm here for two very positive reasons. One is to talk about Roll, the virtual tabletop that has brought back the video, and also Ulisses Spiele's Fading Suns 4th edition, which I'm going to be running on Roll. So it's also going to act as a bit of a tutorial for my players. So I think there will be a live stream coming up in a few weeks, I think. And we're going to be playing Fading Suns. Many of my players won't have played on Roll. And so this is a chance for me to show you where the buttons are. And I am going to go and do the buttons. And we'll talk about Fading Suns as we go. So not a live stream on this occasion, but that's coming. So a video to talk about Roll and Fading Suns. Well, this is Roll. I'm in a Roll room now, as they're called. I have talked about Roll before, but probably just wanted to remind you a little bit about why I like it and why I think it's worth you looking up. It's got two features that I think make it stand out. One is video boxes, so video content is very much front and center, as you can see. Now, were there 4 of us here, there'd be 4 of these boxes filling this central area, and that's how they do it. So it feels a little bit different from a lot of very good virtual tabletops. I also use Foundry, but many other virtual tabletops will focus on the canvas and will probably focus a little bit around maps and tokens, or maybe a canvas display with a nice moody image in it. That's great, that's fine, you can do it that way. What Roll kind of says is, well, let's put the people at the front. If you're sitting around a table, you're typically looking at the people. You might be looking at the table where the map is, but you're also looking at the people as you role play together. So that's kind of where it sits, and I think it makes it a fairly unique virtual tabletop just for that reason. Another big selling point for Roll is the non-coder, I'm not a coder, user-definable custom sheets. So you can build a character sheet very quickly, and then you can share that sheet, not easy to say, with the community. And so the sort of Roll community's got, hundreds of sheets for lots and lots of different games. And then you can take that sheet yourself, build on it, make it your own, etc., etc. So I've done some sheets for Ulisses Spiele's 4th edition of Fading Suns, shared those with the community. If you want to play Fading Suns and you'd like to play it online, you might want to give Roll a go. Roll itself now has a subscription, and that pays for what I think might be a third-party service that delivers the video. It pays for hosting and pays for other things, so there's obviously a cost. And by them introducing now a subscription, it kind of ensures the sort of perpetuation and continuation of the service into the future and provides some security for us who love to use it. So that's great. So that's all good. So that's what Roll is. Fading Suns we'll take a look at. We'll weave Fading Suns into the conversation as we take a look at the Roll virtual tabletop. So center, people, and then round the edges you've got gaming tools. So it feels very much like a video conferencing software with extras around the edges. So it's designed a little bit differently. It is quite a simple a virtual tabletop. I'm sorry, I'm saying simple. I'm pausing, being convinced that there's a huge depth of complexity in terms of the code that sits around this simplicity. But from a feature set point of view, it does some things and it does them very well. It doesn't do other things. So for me, it's a really good blend, actually. And that's coming from someone who really, really enjoys using Foundry. So I like both. I like both, but this has got a special place in my heart. Right, Fading Suns. Enough preamble. Let's have a look at Fading Suns on Roll. So you're going to see how Roll functions as we look at different elements of the room that we're all in. That I'm in. You're not here. Not yet. Who knows? I might get to game with you at some point. So up here, top left, that's where all the sheets are, including the ones that I've just very quickly, and it is quick to build them, And you don't have to be that clever, like, because I can do it. So I'm going to open up the sheet pane. So it opens up on the left. I would say that if you're running Roll, although you can run it on your phone, that they've got mobile access to it, and apparently the phone access is pretty good, surprisingly good. But if you're running it on a desktop, as I am now, and if I'm running the game, I would obviously run it on a desktop. I would suggest your minimum screen resolution would be full HD, which would be a 1920 by 1080 resolution. I'm just putting that out there. It will function with less, but I would say it will function much better if you've got that more screen real estate. What you're looking at now is, I think, heading toward, I don't actually know, I haven't tested the size of the screen, but I think it's more like 1440p. So it's slightly higher resolution even than full HD. And so I've got a bit more screen to play with. So when that pane comes out, it's not so much of a pain. That was terrible. I'm going to move on. Sheets. So this is the Fading Suns encounter sheet that I built. It's a very simple sheet. You're going to look at a character sheet in a moment and look at kind of what is made up of a character sheet. With Roll, you have to make a decision. And the role is, how much do I put on the VTT and how much do I keep off it in terms of detail and content? For me, when I run most games on Roll, I don't put like a character sheet for every single NPC, because I think that would overload the interface and make it an over complex experience for you as a GM. You've got other things to think about, frankly more important things to think about than where the character sheet is. So I'll keep them offline, but I will do the roll, their dice rolls, online so they can be seen by others, because that's part of the fun. So they can groan as I critical again, or cheer as I make a complete fool of myself. That happens a lot. So what have I done here? So on this encounter sheet, I've got a simple goal and roll. So the actual numbers will be down on a sheet down here on my desk. But when it comes to making roll, you make a goal, a roll against a goal. And a goal is a combination in Fading Suns of a characteristic and a skill, both rated at roughly 1 to 10. Yeah. So you add the two together. That gives you your goal, and that's the number you must roll equal to or less than on a d20. So I've got this set up in here. Let's say my goal isn't at 14, let's say it's a 12, just for argument's sake. I'm not arguing. So I can now click on that. So I've worked out my goal as 12. I make the roll. What that does, that opens up the right-hand side. All the sheets are on that side. All the other features pretty much are on that side. The top one being the dice roller. So this is the dice roller up here. It's called a reference. In Roll, it's a goal. It's the goal I have to get to. So it's a 12. It has also opened up a d20 for me automatically, and all I need to do is click on the roll button, and it will roll the dice and give me the result, or the die in this case. Up the top right there, you can see on the video box, it's got a demo. It's got a highlight of the roll in action, so people can see what's going on. It will also appear in chat, and I'll show you chat a little bit later. So make a roll. I can add an additional d20 into the dice roller now. If I was rolling with the equivalent that Fading Suns has of advantage or disadvantage, which can take place, then I can add in another d20 and look at both results. I would eyeball it. It doesn't automate advantage or disadvantage. It just displays the dice, much like if you're just rolling on a table. So there is a level of automation, but only up to a certain point. So I can make the roll. I'm not going to add another d20. I'm going to make a roll. Make the roll. Go. 7. I succeed. My NPC succeeds on a 7. Now, in Fading Suns, 4th edition, 7 grants you 7 victory points. Why is that important? Well, most tasks that you're given will have a resistance, if you like, a difficulty. And that resistance has to be beaten. And so I would, as a GM, I would say, make a roll. It's resistance 6. So you'd roll your goal, and you'd know it's a resistance 6. Well, the 7 victory points, 1 for 1, can remove resistance. So with 7, I get 7 victory points. Now that gives me 7 victory points to reduce the resistance. That means I succeed and I overcome the resistance. So it's often a 2-tier thing happening in the game, which is quite elegant, quite nicely done actually. It also means that you can, so if it was a 6 difficulty, I've got 7, 6 are taken off, that leaves me 1 left to spend. Now you can spend those victory points in other ways, including things like increase. I will learn the game better before I run it. I am new to the game. I think you can increase things like damage. So if there's a damage, so if there's damage associated as an outcome of this, you can lob another victory point in and give another point of damage. You can also bank victory points. So victory points are held in a sort of victory point bank for the character. And as characters develop, their bank capacity grows, so they can keep and hold victory points to use subsequently. So they perpetuate. And I'll show you the bank in a minute. That's kind of how you do a roll. Initiative is popcorn initiative in Fading Suns. A player gets to choose what to do and then can choose who goes next. It could be an opponent, it could be a player. It's a bit more sophisticated than that actually, but it's very simple to apply. So it keeps people dynamically engaged in what's going on. The adversary coffer, Fading Suns is interesting. It's very interesting. It's great actually, but it's a mix of space opera, high technology, and medievalism kind of interwoven together. And if you don't know the setting, then the Fading Suns, the suns actually are in places fading, faltering. But why? Why is that happening? Could it be, I say as a priest of the Holy Church, that it's the hubris of man, the sin of technology, the Second Republic that grew to great heights and power but then fell, has such a metaphysical, or indeed, so is that hubris, that metaphysical quality, physically affecting the universe around us? Of course it is, says the priest. And you shall repent. And you shall repent and burn, says the Avesti. So, there's that element to it as well. And it's got lots more. I'll come back to Fading Suns. Superb. Really good. Anyway. And this adversary coffer is a place for NPCs to store points. Actually, they're storing weird points, as players can as well. So there's 2 currencies going on. There's victory points, you get those from rolls, you've seen that. And there's weird points. Weird points you can gain in other ways. And they're like super victory points. You can do things like, oh, I don't like that roll, I'm going to roll again, spend a weird point. You can cash them in for 3 victory points each as well. You can gain another action, for example, in a round. You can say, I'm going to do that again. That was good. Spend a weird point. So they're like really superhero points. So it is a game. Fading Suns is a game with meta currency right up front. In a sense, it reminds me a little bit of Momentum and Threat from 2D20, if you know that. It's a very interesting way of doing things. And if you're comfortable with the idea that you've got a game meta currency in the front, with you behind it narrating what that actually means in sort of fun kind of ways, then you've got game and narration operating in tandem and balance. If you don't like meta currencies and the game being right up front in your face, then this probably isn't the game for you. Yeah? I happen to like both sorts of games. Yes, I'll play BRP. Great stuff. But I like this sort of game as well. And it does it really very well indeed. Anyway, that's a small sheet. That's a tiny sheet. It's only got a few things on it. Let's look at a character sheet. It'll tell you much more. So, players, when you've opened up, you've opened up your sheet pane. There's a little symbol here, view user sheets. You can see all the sheets that are available to you. I'm going to pull out just the top one as a character. And then we've got a character sheet. And let's say this is your character. Okay. Now, it's quite a long character sheet. Roll doesn't have pop out, so this sheet stays here. This pane is a feature, a fixed feature of the way that Roll works. It's only a certain width, so you don't have anything that's wider, but that's kind of fair enough because you don't want to intrude too much on the central area. And by the way, I can always clear that and close that at any time just to open things up a bit more. So this has got quite a detailed character sheet. It doesn't have all the detail that's in Fading Suns, and I'll show you why in a minute. But it's got quite a lot. So if I start to scroll down, you'll see it's got lots of stuff. Now, navigating that, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can just scroll, as I've done, and get to the bit. The other thing you can do is you can come up to here, and this is it might actually come up with a tooltip. It does come up with a tooltip. Open table of contents. So you click on that, it pushes things out a little bit more, and you've got like bookmarks to the section heads of the character sheet. So if I wanted to go straight down to actions, which is on this sheet, I click that and it just jumps straight to the top of actions. So you can get to the thing you want pretty quickly. I can now close that if I want to, just to open things up again. And I don't know, what's the first action? So actions, so in the game, I mentioned these goals, which is a combination of characteristic and skill. An action is just simply a combination of characteristic and skill that's pre-compiled and ready for you. It's like a macro. It's good to go. And it also says something about what the outcome of that action will be. So it's a quick way of doing frequent actions. And you can build as many actions as you like. You know, you just make them up. Just add the two together and create one. I've started the characters with some, the ones that come with the pre-gens. So a Hiram Splendor. This particular maneuver is shooting a gun, I think. I'm not quite sure why it's so low. I better check that before the game starts. But yeah, I can click on it. Does the usual thing. It opens up the dice roller. I can roll it. And that's a thorough miss. I could try to do things with victory points before I roll. Again, you can trade in victory points for increasing your goal. So before you roll, so if my goal is 8, if I put in, I don't know, 5 victory points, my goal becomes 13, my chance becomes 65% effectively. I'll do that. I would still have failed, actually, on a 17. I'm going to just say I failed. I'm a failure. Never mind. I'm going to clear that roll. Very interesting. Anyway, so that's how character sheets work. You can bookmark. So there's bookmarks that help you get to places. You can decide to just scroll about, either wheel it or click on it and pull it up and down as you will. The other thing to note about character sheets, though, is once you've got your character sheet loaded, if you minimize that pane again and shift it off out of the way, opens up your real estate a little bit more again. But look, the character sheet is still there. It's just in a little column. So you can run your mouse down, and if you can see, it goes through all the different section heads. Yeah. So if I wanted to go back and look at my, I don't know, skills, for example, I click on that. It opens it up and it goes right to the skills. Most roles will be a combination of characteristic and skill. Fading Suns has 3 categories of characteristic: body, mind, and spirit, each of which has 3 characteristics. Strength, dex, and endurance, for example, being the body ones. If I wanted to do a skill roll, I might make it perception and let's say art. Okay, so you're looking at a specific, and you're trying to judge and assess a particular piece of art. Well, maybe you're looking for a piece of detail in this art. So I can click on the both. If you click on both, top right, you can see 7 and 6 make 13. That's your goal. You've got your D20 ready to go. You make a roll. I succeed, and I get 11 victory points because I've got a score of 11. I bet I overcome any resistance that the storyteller GM is throwing at me. Probably not. Anyway, I'll clear that roll. That's how the game works. That's how your character sheet does stuff. Because there's meta currencies and you've got things like vitality, like hit points, then obviously roll provides you with trackers, so you can record all this stuff. So let me see if I can go back to vitality and revivals. Let's go to that. So that's the number of hit points, this vitality, sorry, this person has got. He's got some renewals that he can spend to recover, and as you drop down your health, it records it. Similarly, there's somewhere up here, there it is. There's a victory point bank I mentioned. Well, here's his victory point bank with nothing in. So you soon fill up your victory point banks, and then you can keep them and use them and do cool things and push yourself. And ideally, probably narrate how you're doing that. Why? How is your character doing more stuff? What are they doing? I'll put him back to 27. because I'm going to use these characters in the game. So Fading Suns keeps track of all this stuff. So Roll can keep track of all this stuff with the sheets. These sheets are available on Roll. So if you want to play Fading Suns 4th edition on Roll, give me some feedback on the sheets. That'd be absolutely great. I've also got a troop sheet. So a bit like Blades in the Dark, where you've got your individual characters, but you've also got the group. And the group has characteristics, or at least descriptive elements to it. What sort of group is it? How did you get together? And then they've got a weird bank, so you can store a pool of weird for the group, and those can be spent. You can agree. Can I have a point of weird? Yeah, okay. In I go. I'm going to do this, and you can spend your weird and do an extra action, or do whatever cool thing it is that the weird will help you with. So lots of different types of sheets. I've designed 3: an encounter, a troop, and a character sheet. Could design more if I felt like it. You can make a sheet anything, of course. If you've got a couple of rules that you continually need to want to reference, make it a sheet. People can just go and look at the sheet very quickly. But there are other ways you can do it. So one of the things about Fading Suns 4th edition is that I'm going to call it a medium crunch game. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's got a lot of game to it. It's not a super light game. It's fairly intuitive. But there's a lot to it, and there's a lot for the players to keep hold of. One of the things is something called perks. A perk is like a feat in 3.5 edition. Okay, I'm showing my age. Actually, it's not that far off. Is it 3.5? It's not that far ago. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. But there's a lot of detail there. So if you go to perks here, all I've done is I've referenced what they are. But I haven't put all the detail of the perks in the sheet, because actually, given the format of it, as you can see, that will be really quite cumbersome. I mean, technically you could do it. You could have every single feat described in a box under perks over there. I think you'll struggle to find the thing that you want. So what I've done is I've referenced the ones that you have there, but then I put them over on the other side in the assets. So every character's got a perk sheet over there. And that's a description of what the perks actually are. Let's have a look at those now. So I'm going to just minimize the character for a second. Still there. I can still go and look at my perks if I want. So what do you have over here? Well, we've seen the dice roll already. That's been busy giving us dice rolls and working out how the game goes. What else have we got? Books and apps. So I don't know what the apps would be. Some cunning web app, which I'm sure will make this platform even more amazing. And I've got no idea. I've got no idea what they are. But the books are essentially, for me, PDFs. So as you can see, each character has got a sheet. Now I can show this. Let's have a look. I can view this in a new window. I can download it. I can do some other things probably that I can do, like remove it from the room. I'm going to view it in a new window. I think... Well, let's just see what happens. I think you're going to get to see this. Let me just check. So let's have a look at what I've done with these. I'm going to view this in a new window. So ready, 1, 2, 3, click. Okay, so I've kind of disappeared for a moment. I'm still here. But let's have a look. So let's just zoom in. It's a PDF. Players could download these and put them into a separate PDF viewing app. They could detach this particular tab and make it a separate browser window with the perks in. So this character's got danger sense, and it creates like a special vigilance coffer of VPs, which can then be spent on instinctive perception, spending +1 to increase the goal. So it's like you've got this pool of readiness. You're on edge, permanently ready to absolutely understand what's going on around you, and so it's quite nice. I'm going to close this and come back. All right, so you can access PDF information. Now, as a GM, I'm wanting to display things while we're still playing and still able to see each other. So how do you do that? Well, the next one I want to show you is images. I'll show you a few images. Let's start with the character. So if I wanted to display this character's face, I can show the part of the face. It's not an extremely exciting illustration, by the way, but I'll just show you how it works. So if I go click Show Party, I'm going to disappear up there now, like that. So I'm still here. I'm going to wave so you can see me. So if there was 5 of us, we'd be in a stripe down there, and the image becomes front and center and not us. But I can minimize this image, or so that rather than get rid of it, I can just minimize it and it becomes another video box. So if I'm role playing this character, maybe I'll want to do this, and if there's 4 of us playing, there's going to be 6 boxes here, one of which is going to be this guy who I'm busy playing. So you can mix a little bit the video and the demonstration of assets. It does tend to sort of hone in and centralize on it, so you need to be careful about how that looks. It's not always going to work, but it's another way of doing it. So you can do image sharing, which is quite nice. The cameras do all disappear up to the top left and are quite small, but they do stick around, and dice rolls still work. You still get a little banner for the dice rolls at the top. If you want to change your display name, you can do that here. You can just literally change your display name by clicking on the name. We typically have character name, real name when we're playing, so it helps us to remember who the characters are. So you can do that. Let me close this image again, which will bring me back to the center, to the people view. Going back to images, let's look at a more complex image. How about the jump gate map? So this is the Fading Suns known worlds universe, if you like. So I'll show this to you now. I've disappeared back into my corner, as indeed would all the players if they were playing. And this is an image. Now what I've done is there's also tokens. So Roll does have a map and token facility, but you can also drop tokens onto an image. And there is a distinction there. But essentially this is a token that I just happen to have made a little bit bigger, and it's actually a piece of information text. This is a token. You can see this here. And this is just used to show where the players currently are. And this is an image. By doing this this way, I can display multiple pieces of information. So I can go up and say, well, actually, I'd also like to show the system data for AppShy. So that's another token with more information that the players can consume and read. And then you can just remove things with a sort of delete function for tokens. Although hilariously, the delete function stays active. And if you forget, you just mistakenly delete tokens from the map. I mean, I've never done that before. Anyway, close that. So yeah, so some information about Grail, the system upon which this adventure that I'm going to be running will start. And these are the jump gates, these amazing sort of lost civilization that once clearly ruled the universe has left these amazing gates which allow you to jump through them instantaneously between 2 places. The jump gates themselves being right on the periphery of systems. So that's how people get around, and you need jump keys to be able to get through gates. There's a limit to the number of jump keys that you have, and that tends to control the amount of space that you can actually travel on any particular ship. Lots of really interesting stuff, and it also builds back into the background of the setting as well. And as you can see from the map, lots of different factions have controls of different portions of the sort of known universe around us, or at least the navigable universe around us. There are, of course, many lost gates. And these lost gates open up whole new areas of space, lost since, well, the failings of the Second Republic, or maybe gates that have never ever been discovered by anybody, ever, at least from the Empire's point of view. Really good stuff. Anyway, so there's an image, and that's how you do it. And again, of course, I could minimize it. It stays there. I can maximize it again, or I can call it up again. And that's kind of the flow. People pulling out of the way, because then you can look at stuff, and then you get rid of stuff and people come back. And it's automated in that sense. That flow is automated. Quite nice. It works quite well. And that's how you do it. So as players, you will use the sort of left-hand side quite a bit. I mean, of course, you can if you want to. You could just literally click on the D20, create a D20 and make a roll. There's no reference. It just gives you the result. It's a 1. It's probably going to be a success, but it's 1 victory point. Unless that's a critical. I can't remember. I will learn the game. Well, in fact, speaking of which, let's have a look. If we go back to our apps somewhere. Rules summary. Here we go. I'm going to disappear completely again. I'm going to show you this rules summary. View in new window. So I anticipate that I will have, yes, I've disappeared. And so I've just done a quick rules summary. It's nothing flash, I promise. And it talks about, well, critical hit. If you roll equal to your goal, it's a critical. Of course it is. It's the best result you can get. That makes absolute sense. The game does actually make sense. What's initiative? What are actions? What actions can you take? What's a goal roll? We've talked about favourable and unfavourable rolls. There you go. That's the advantage and disadvantage kind of mechanic that's in the game. What's a critical miss? What are victory points? How do you gain them? What can you spend them on? What can you spend weird on? All right, so you gain weird by rolling a critical. Or you're particularly inventive and amusing at the table. Etc. etc. Resistances here, you know, I said everything could have a resistance. Well, a demanding resistance is a resistance 6, so you've got to spend 6 VPs, victory points, to actually succeed. But they do go higher. And resistances can be the same for things like firearms and stuff, where cover adds to your resistance because it's harder for you to hit the person. It does make sense. Lots of skills. There are lots of skills. They're all on your sheet. Healing, remedy. I haven't got every rule in the game, but I've picked out some of the key ones. Anyway, I'm going to stop doing that now. And that obviously is shared with the players. The players can all have access to that rule summary, maybe in a different window somewhere while playing. Gosh. There are a few more features in Roll, which I'll just quickly mention. But, largely, hopefully you get a flavour for how it works. Hopefully I've excited you a bit about a very cool role-playing game called Fading Suns from Ulisses Spiele. Hope so. Can you tell I'm excited about it? I am genuinely excited about it. I do get excited about these things. What was I going to show you? Oh, yes. So maps. So Roll does have a map and token feature. I've kind of shown you a version of it with an image. A map is the same as an image, except you define a grid upon that image. So you've got vertical and horizontal squares. And by doing that, what you're doing is you are able to control the size of the tokens, which are also defined by a grid. So the two marry together. And so typically, if you're wanting sort of precision of tokens, you'd use a map, and you can create maps on this on this system and define a grid. Now, feature-wise, there are lots of things that we would like to see on Roll, and for quite a long time. And how long has it been going? It's going to be longer than I remember, so I won't give you a number. But for quite a while in its sort of mid-term life, one of the things we were saying was, can we please have fog of war on our tactical maps, please? Because it doesn't have that. There are ways around it. I use large tokens, which I just slapped on to cover things up. But because the tokens on the display are not locked to any user, it's like looking at a table. Anyone can pick a figure up around a table, or anyone can move a token on the display. So in that sense, it's very like being around a table. But it does mean that if you're trying to use tokens to cover things up, it doesn't really work, because players will, by mistake, just move stuff around as they're trying to move the map around to see things. So what are the great things that the Roll team does is they've got basically a core capability and a set of features that are certainly of their time, quite revolutionary, I'd say. And what they've done is they've integrated other services into what they do. The video capability is, I think, a third-party provision, which is integrated into Roll. They've now integrated with Albert Rodeo, which, if you haven't met that one, look it up. Albert Rodeo is a beautiful, light map and token VTT. A lot of people just use Albo Rodeo and, you know, some video camera software off on the side, and the two work together, of course, fine. It's now integrated in Roll. Now, my particular game is not using that capability, and perhaps I'll demonstrate that another time. But of course, Albo Rodeo has got Fog of War. So they've now got Fog of War. You just do it through an integrated use of a different service. So if you're wanting to do tactical maps, all of a sudden, use Albo Rodeo through Roll. I think that's quite clever. And we might see other instances of them integrating other services maybe into the application. Who knows? It might happen. I'd like to think it may. What else? Tokens we've already looked at. So as I say, I'm using tokens inventively, I will say, to present multiple pieces of information at the same time on a canvas in Roll. You don't have to do it that way. They could just literally be your classic circular token that you plonk on a tactical map. You can do it that way if you want. I'm having to get round, I think, some of the organizational limitations of assets in a room in Roll. I think if you're running a campaign and you've got lots of assets, after a while, finding them becomes a little bit more difficult. You can search for tokens, so they've got a search capability. So I can put, if I put jump, it comes to the jump gate map card, which I could then display. So they have given you tools, and you can search them with a filter. Okay, so you can filter on mine and others. So other people can add tokens in. And you can sort them alphabetically, A to Z, Z to A. So there are tools there. I just think if you've got quite a lot, if you're running a campaign for a year and you're sticking in the same room, do you do that? Do you just open a new room? Maybe. The subscription is both monthly and yearly. It's a bit cheap if you go yearly. They do have a subscription on Roll now. It's only required for the room host. You can play for free and sign up for free. And with that subscription, you get 10 gig of data. It's all browser based. It's all online. It's available all the time. I do believe the video capture is like fairy dust. I don't know. I don't know how good. I don't know how it's so good. It really is good. Stunning, actually. I mean, okay, it's got my ugly mush on it, but I can tell you the quality is good. And you don't often get that either with VTTs. Where was I? I was going off into the mists of joy. It's got audio. I haven't used it very much. I think it's mono. I don't know about the controls, so I haven't used it enough to comment. You can play music. You can play atmospheric ambience. I've got plenty of players who hate it. I've got one or two players that hate it if they're on Roll, and as soon as I put ambience on, they try and turn it down or off because they can't process that and people speaking, or they don't like it. Other people love it. So I may add some ambience in my game. I haven't added any assets, as you can see there, at all. And finally, of course, you've got chat, which I've mentioned, and chat places all the dice roll results in there. It places chat in there if you want to sort of type something. You can also pick another player and type to them personally, and then you can choose what to view on your display. You can choose everything. You can choose just the chat and not the dice log. You can choose to just look at the dice log, or you can look to, if you've been chatting to a particular person, just look at your chats between the two of you, and you just filter it. It's true to say that the chat in a room, you can do nothing with it. So you can't remove it, you can't delete it, you can't archive it into a markdown file. You can't edit it, and you can't delete it between the date range, assuming that there is date stamps, timestamps on the different entries in the file. I don't know if there are. Anyway, so it just stays there. It just presumably it grows. I might like features just to be able to archive some chat But I don't know. I don't know. You see, I don't know. I'm not sure whether I'm just not getting the right dynamic and whether I should be opening another room and just getting a clean slate occasionally. Season 2, it's a new room. But of course, I'd have to hand load in all the assets again. You can't clone a room either, to my knowledge, unless they brought that in and I've forgotten. I don't think so. Anyway, stuff. There's lots of stuff. Let me just clear that roll. What do you think? I like it. I still like it. I like it, and I love Fading Suns. Let me just close that for a second. Brings me back. I'm going to show another image. So this is an image of the book. So this is the character book. It's lovely. I mean, Fading Suns, I think, benefits from some lovely artwork like this. I mean, Ulisses Spiele have done a superb job with the creation of his book. I would show you a physical copy of the book, and I will do a review when it arrives. I have ordered it. I promise. It's in a nice folio case. It's 3 books actually altogether. This is the character book, which has got, I think, the majority of the rules and stuff about creating characters and stuff. I've got the PDFs. I'm UK based. I've ordered it through, as it happens, Zatu Games. But it seems difficult to get a hold of over here. I could be wrong. I may have just fluffed my acquisition check, but I think I don't want to say Brexit, but it actually might be. It might be Brexit. I don't know, but it seems to be difficult to get hold of. There is stock somewhere. It might well be in Germany or something. And there are other products still available for this line that you can get hold of. And of course, there's a second-hand market. I am hoping to run Fading Suns at a convention in October. So there's a nice play kit with, I don't know, little mats and things that you can put out in front of players. And it's really sweet, really nicely done. So Fading Suns, lovely science fiction game with, I mean, you can see from the images there, there's a sort of sense of medievalism imbued within it. Very clean system. I think quite interesting. I don't know how it plays. To be fair, I haven't played it. I played first and second edition, and I always thought that was fine, actually. I didn't have too many problems with it. I think some people whinged about it, but I thought the victory point system there also worked kind of okay. I think there was a few tweaks I made to it, but it's really simple to play, and you get good results, so it's all right. It's quite trad. You can make it as sort of story game as you like. It's, as I say, it's got a mechanistic element to it, but of course, tell a story, and sometimes the mechanics help you to tell a story. So it's all good. I'm really looking forward to running this for my group, which will be sometime soon. We will stream it. So if you're interested in watching that, it'll come up on the channel at some point, and I may try and advertise it so you can see it. Ulisses Spiele have given me permission to use the imagery as part of a live stream display. And I might try to... Oh, another feature of Roll is screen share. It's a feature down here that I can use. So you can choose to screen share particular things. I might try a screen share. I'm probably pushing the limits of the bandwidth I have of internet here and possibly the CPU on my PC. So although it's functionally capable of doing it, I think physically, technically, I may have some limitations which might restrict it. I might try it anyway as a noble experiment, even if it comes out a bit juddery. And that'll be my fault, not Roll's. It's just there's a few more pieces in the jigsaw to get that looking good. Right, I've probably said enough. I probably said too much as usual. There's Roll. There's Fading Suns, 4th edition. I'm going to be running something called a Road So Dark, I think. Probably what I'll end up doing is running it just as a one-shot, but therefore maybe not completing the shard, as they were called. The shard, or the adventure, I think it's a 2nd edition piece, but actually just picking it up and using it along with the 4th edition is really very straightforward. I'm looking forward to doing that, so I hope you'll join us when we do that. Roll, Fading Suns, and a bit of a tutorial for my group about where things are. Hope that's been of some sort of interest. I'll go to an outro. And, well, I guess just to say thanks very much for watching. Hope your gaming is going well. And, well, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.